Let me introduce myself. I'm Raj Joseph, founder CEO of DQLabs. Here we're going to today talk about the future of autonomous data trust management. So before I go into the presentation deck, how many of you guys today use a data catalog platform? Few hands. Data governance? Same folks. Two different platforms or same platform? Same platform, okay. Data quality? Few hands. And data observability? Few hands. Have you guys realized the value of those investments so far? Not even one? Okay. Okay, so that's what we're really covering here. So this picture which I have in the slide is a representation of kind of where we are, even though it says before, we're going to talk about what we will be going forward with. But today's scenario of data management, data trust, quality, observability, catalog can be analogous to a self-driving car, because you have to put the brake, press on the accelerator, constantly monitor, manage, even though the car comes with all those heavy pack bells and whistles. What we are really talking when we are talking autonomous is more of an self-driving car. So we are talking about like a car that drives by itself. You sit on the back, you let it do all the things autonomously. So that's what we are talking. So what does it mean in the ages of AI in specific to data trust platform? So if you really think about autonomous, we are talking about we are able to go in a self-driving car, drive without any worry, and not worried about accidents and things like that. It's because of the trust that we have built in that platform of sort. Similarly, in a data management, we are talking about how we can bring this autonomousity by using data quality, observability, and catalogs all together in one simple way, and bringing the trust as a means to get into autonomous of sort. So let's take a little bit scenarios of sort in terms of the current struggles across different personas in the world of data trust. So first, if you take the executives, today, sorry, my screen is like little messed up here, so it doesn't show me, because it has a timer, majority of the screens is being blocked. So if you see from an executive standpoint, most of the time, the conversation of quality, trust is more of a board conversation, not a reality in terms of action. Nothing has been done in operational aspect of it. If you want to do data products, SLAs contracts, it's not enforced. It's just more a preaching versus actually followed in action. AA programs that has been invested relies much on data trust and quality, but because of the lack of data readiness, we are not able to do anything in terms of the AA investments in realization of sort. Similarly, if you're looking into reports, models, any of those things, there is always a doubt that if these numbers are relevant or not. And it really creates this lack of trust for the leaders who should be looking into this data with trust. So because of that, now with the world of autonomous, leaders finally can just have a KPI level visibility without doing anything. And we are really talking with full autonomous, driven by AI native solutions here. So what does it mean? So if you really think governance instituted is more in terms of regulatory compliance or in terms of cataloging aspect of in terms of data discovery and etc., we are talking even one more level further down, going into all the way to the pipelines, which is actually moving the data from one source to another. So we're enforcing governance as code with all the SLAs that a producer or consumers may be needing to make this much more data trust proven of sort. So this is also done at the governance as code, then the transparency and the context is also brought from terms of lineages and visibilities of sort. Over in all, from a leadership standpoint, we are talking the future state as more total KPI visibility end-to-end in the platform. If you take the next set of role in terms of producers, it's more around data engineers and architects. who are really actually building the data that is being consumed. So here we are talking about pipeline management, moving data, transformations, things like that. So here today, in current scenario, even though you have lots of observability platforms, majority of the time they are dealing with issues like alert fatigues. Thousands of alerts, each alert does not have enough information to go triage the solution or the problem that is needed to be fixed, or it kind of becomes more chaos with lack of information of sort. And this results in more inefficiency and firefighting all the time. In this mode, with a autonomous data management, what we are talking is more of a self-healing pipeline. Pipelines will not only be detected when it's at fail, but also it will be able to resolve by itself. And how do we do that is by looking into the trends, looking into past actions of what might have done, and all of these things. So assume like there are like multitudes of agents sits on top of these pipeline failures and trying to find out the issues of sort, resolves it automatically, and gives that information back to the data engineers so they don't have to worry about it. If we go further and look into the next role from a consumer standpoint, it is more the analysts, data consumers, or data scientists. Here they are looking into data that is ready to be congested more from a business perspective. So here, most of the challenges is there is a gap in terms of the data that is being shown in the report versus what the business wants. That semantics and context is very missed. And this no shared context is the main key problem that allows us all this confusion in terms of transformations, a gap in the data quality aspect of it, gap in the understanding of what reports and how to be used, and et cetera, et cetera. Because of this, most of the time, data scientists end up like retraining, versus actually refining the models and optimizing the models, which involves lots of cost of sort. So in an autonomous world, we are talking about data ready for business, with more of a semantic, which is automatically extracted from the data. So here, data is not looked at purely data, but more from a context, more from a business aspect of it. And this allows us to understand each vertical, each industry, your application in a way that it could be used, also from a trust, and more importantly, from a context, from a business application standpoint in terms of the consumption. This helps us to even make the AI-ready data even much more further, more stronger and refiner. So that's on a consumption use case standpoint. Now, if we go further into another role of governance and compliance, same thing. Most of the platforms that we have today is either passive catalogs, collection of data, where we are doing a search and discovery, looking into lineage flows and et cetera. And today, still not catalogs or not managing the unstructured data from a quality standpoint, very early on that. And most of the governance concepts has been more concepts and static and not evolving and more actionable. So with this autonomousity, what could be done is governance is not anymore a concept or a theory, but it can be really operationalized. This involves active metadata management. It also talks about observability, refined and blended together as part of the catalog in itself, and an ongoing compliance, and not a compliance in a point in time, but it's in continuous and evolving, along with some kind of unstructured data management together. We are talking about a stewardship, a governance, where we are kind of equating to a self-driving car, where the platform is driving and doing everything for you, versus you doing manually on top of a platform by putting governance team and et cetera. The result set is the governance teams are freed with the ability of information that they have to manage to where they can use the information to make the appropriate decisions and power the organizations of sort. So this is a slide which kind of gives you a full view of what has happened in the last 2 decades. If you really see back in 2000s and et cetera, it was done more manual rules, manual transformations, pipelines, things like that. Then we moved into an era of where we consolidated data into data lake or data warehouse and doing checks and monitoring on top of that. Then later we went into an era of augmented where we are kind of using some kind of AI assist or ML assist feature sets to make some decisions of sort. And even in this, still we didn't resolve anything. And now, the last couple of years, we have been into this whole wave of Gen AI, where we are assisted with prompts, recommendations, and things like that. Still, the problem has not been solved. So how could this be solved? Is where we're going to be talking about a whole concept and a vision and a platform of sort, Prizm. And this is by DQLabs. And what really Prizm is, a fully autonomous platform that is very, very simplified. So when I talk about simplified, we are talking about it doing most of the work and providing the insights back to you as a user. So today, what you are given is a overload of information where you have to digest, you have to process, you have to take actions on. Here, the platform is doing all of this, taking the actions and giving the outcome of those actions back to you. And if any approval is needed, it also gives you that information of sorts. That's what I mean by simplified. The next is more AI native. And how many of you guys have heard the word AI native so far? OK. So Agentic? OK. So I see some nods. So the difference between AI native and Agentic is most of the time when someone is saying Agentic, they're putting some bunch of agents on top of an existing platform to aid in some decision-making process. AI native is built foundationally from the very base of the platform, built on top of LLMs, GPTs, more AI-driven data model, metadata model, not just agents sitting on top of this. Why is this important? Is because the decisioning capability all the way from the low level to the high level is now totally, it can be used by LLM models, but also you can drive by AM models, and then also give that insight back in a natural language in terms of the outcomes and the actions that has been taken. So it's an AI native platform that is built from foundationally from the bottom up. Then we talk about this autonomous piece. So this is where we are talking about a self-driving car versus actually doing assisted or more automation and etc. So simplified, AI native, and autonomousity at full degree of sort. So in short, you can talk about Prizm in a way where there are multiple steps that goes on in this picture, if you see. So today, most of the platforms, including governance and catalog, extract data and give that discovery of metadata back to you. Even they put some quality scores, some alert signals, and etc. But they don't act on top of that. So this pretty much does all of those pieces of sort. So first, it extracts the metadata from all your sources. This could be lineage, this could be cost, this could be performance, this could be usage, anything that you name, including your custom metadata that you want to create on. So that's that extraction layer. It gives it to this Prizm platform that allows you to give you more in terms of the quality and observability context. Not only that, but it also gives you the business context. So business context is equivalent to a semantic layer or a business terms in a vertical. So if you're insurance, claim number has a specific meaning versus some other number that could be represented in the same database or data model. And that context is much more key. With that context of claim number, there is lots of business process implication that we can infer, and then we can also create more industry-specific quality checks very relevant to the claim number. So that's what we are doing here, extracting the metadata, and then taking the business context, and then applying it to observability and quality, and give that recommendations, but not only give that recommendations, apply these recommendations back into your data sources, and then run it, and then execute it, and then take some actions on it. The result sets of that is if you're managing data products or domains or even like applications that you want to monitor over from a SLA standpoint, you get all of this SLA compliance right out of the platform right away. And so you don't have to manage on top of that. So a little bit going into how are we building the blocks of sort. So here we are kind of a little bit going into the back of what this Prizm concept really in terms of a platform envisioning. So the foundational piece of the Prizm is more context-driven. So we can a little bit talk about how we are creating this business semantic layer from the scratch. So how do we do that? So today, when we connect to a table, we look into more of this deep data profiling, where we look into the trends of the data, the patterns, the frequencies, the usage, also the scores of how it is, or the dependencies of how it is used from one table to another. All of this context allows us to understand the impact of that particular column across the whole universe of your data. So this is the foundational first step that we do in terms of the context that we are building. And then we are relating back to your domain or your industry-specific information. So we look into your processes, we look into your process workflows, pipelines, what are you transforming, and et cetera, and then build that business logic layer on top of it, gives this foundational element for the Prizm to act on it. Now we take the data observability and go more into the code level. So we are now not talking only pipeline monitoring, but also GitHub. So if your pipelines are stored in GitHub, if your code is stored in multiple different places, we are going more and more shift left. So we can proactively find the issues not only earlier, but also find what pipeline and how that pipeline can also be fixed and et cetera of sort. So that's what we are talking from a shift left, more deepened data observability. The next layer, now with both of this context, plus also making sure that the data reaches on time to the consumption layer, we are now going into this domain-specific knowledge and creating quality recommendations. Today, if you're using a quality platform or observability, you are kind of either going configuring, manually looking all those alerts and things like that. Here, the platform is doing all of these 3 steps, so you don't have to manually do any of this stuff from your standpoint. This industry-aligned data quality is not just like conversion of SQL, text to SQL. It's more relevant business process check aligning to your business process that you may running. It could be a SAP to Salesforce comparison, or it could be like your SAP business process workflow degree level of checks that may be needed and et cetera. So the last layer, this allows us to do SLA ownership back to the KPI level visibility that we want to do back either from a governance standpoint or in terms of a data consumption standpoint or in terms of data executives that may be needed. So this whole pyramid is what we are calling as the vision of autonomous and how we are building it from foundational steps to the next step of so. So if you see, there are certain features that we have purposely built into this. And if you start from the top left, apart from embedding AI into all the way from extraction of metadata, we are also creating agents on top, which is very specialized. So these are like specialized mini workers for quality, observability, and cataloging and governance. So which kind of looks into all the data that it generates and as your landscape changes and takes actions on. Second layer is this semantic intelligence. This is what we a little bit talked about, this whole business context, which is very, very more important because data, when you look as pure data, say something versus data when looked from a business context means a lot. So that's the degree of variance that we are talking from a semantic intelligence. The third one is if we find any anomalies, we are not only looking into anomalies as alerts, but clustering all those alerts, looking from a production to consumption workflow from a lineage, and then kind of looking collectively on if this is an issue that needs to be created, and then also if created, how can we resolve it automatically. So this autonomous level of instrumentation is what we are talking on the issue resolution, where issues are automatically created and resolved, and then given that visibility back from a AA stewardship in a queue or a tracking mechanism. And then we are a little bit talking on the catalog side, where we are not just collecting the data, but we are collecting, instrumenting with the semantics, but primarily taking actions on top to recommend the appropriate quality checks and observability layer that we want to do from a business context standpoint. The dependency aware sequencing is something, when you look into a lineage, there is a lot of implication that happens depending upon what table is used first, what comes later, and which tables are used from a consumption standpoint in terms of reports and models. All of that lineage is much more useful. This dependency aware and this context aware, now it creates a heightened version of management that you will not be able to do manually, especially if the amount of data that we are moving is so much in petabytes and petabytes of data, and the speed is so much speed. We need something like more autonomous data trust platform that we need to do it. Interactive Lineage Explorer is a feature where we are talking a time travel of changes that has been done. Imagine that you are changing some pipelines, you are changing some tables over a period of time, and if you want to go back in time and then look into it, we are talking a time travel-based discovery that could be done just by using a simple prompt. And this is where the whole AI native comes in. If you're building an agents on top of an existing platform, this is very hard to do. But when you're building foundationally from the roots of the platform all the way to the top, AI native, you have this interactive all the way in terms of Explorer very seamlessly. All in all, you will have a AI-assisted stewardship. So in this world of AI-assisted stewardship, the platform takes actions and puts it in a queue saying that, hey, I've taken this action. Is this okay? If you need to change it, you can obviously change it. But any of those recommendations and feedbacks that you are kind of giving will be automatically taken into consideration as the next action of sort. So this makes it much more higher manageable. You are not looking into every alert. You are not looking into every asset that has been cataloged. You are not filling the descriptions of those tables and saying if this is a right description or not. But the platform is doing all these things, and you're kind of just managing this one single queue where it kind of gives you all this visibility of sort. Not only that, it also gives you that visualization of business impacts. If there is something that you want to see, a degree of change that happens in a particular table, and you want to see what is the business impact of that, most of the data engineers today don't have that visibility of sort. They can simply go into this platform and ask, what is the business impact of this change, and it will be able to give you not only the full lineage, but more in terms of the business impact from the context aspect of it. So behind the scenes, we have built this layer of intelligence from ground up. So the first layer is what we call as a perception layer. So in this layer, we are really talking about collecting all this information, understanding what this data and how this data is actually changing over a period of time. This is applied not only for structured, but also for semi-structured and unstructured data. Once we understand the monitoring trend piece of the statistics, the pattern, and all of that stuff, we are making some reasonings and decisioning on top of that. This involves looking into a table and saying, like, this table changes every time over a period of a month or every week, maybe. And it is changing not only based on the certain week, but also based on another table that gets from a vendor. So this level of understanding is made, and the dependency aware is injected into it. Now we can make any decision when an alert happens. When a file or when a data goes up on the next week, then we will know, like, this is normal based on the vendor changes that we got, and etc. So some of this reasoning and decisioning is made more intelligent because of that layer. The next layer is where we are really taking actions. We talked about a little bit about how we can create issues on behalf of the AA stewards or the governance team, or call any remediation that we need to do, or even resolve any pipelines. All of this is done in this action layer. And the last one is any suggestions that has been done back to the platform is also taken into consideration, learn from it, and then kind of made it more of a self-healing. So that whole 4 different layer is an agent fabric, more of an AI native platform that not only perceives and reasons, but also takes actions and remediates, acts and learns from that, primarily embedding trust into every point of action in terms of runtime. So in short, like irrespective of what you are doing, so if you are starting from a journey of cataloging and then trying to get an inventory of how it is used and etc., you can use some kind of intelligence from an AI native application such as Prizm. if you're really looking into from a quality trust aspect of it, in order to get good quality recommendations, you need that business context. And this business context means that you need some kind of platform that automatically derives semantics from the ground up. It goes back to Prizm again, which is this more autonomous way of looking into things. And if you're looking more from an observability in terms of monitoring alerts, most of the time you're dealing with each and every alert to see what it means, what could be resolved, and etc. Again, it needs that intelligence that could be observed from this business context, plus also this whole data landscape monitoring, which again goes back to this autonomous way of thinking, look into it. So the prime message for this is, like, when you're looking into any of those tool sets, things like that, start looking into what is autonomous way of data management, autonomous way of looking into from a trust aspect of it, and then blending three important things: quality, context, which is your semantic layer, and then also the observability piece of that together. So this is where the whole future is going. So it's not anymore an aspiration or a dream. Today it's available operationally. So if anybody is interested in, definitely reach out to us. You can book a session. You have an email ID. We can happy to show the whole platform demo. We can also understand some of the use cases of what you are doing with you, and then see how this could be done and shown as a solution using an autonomous way of thinking, and etc. So I ask you to feel free to reach out to that email, or there is also a QR code that you can scan and book sessions with us, and we can happy to go more dwell into that of sort. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. I see a couple.
Hi.
Hi.
What about security and GDPR when you have access to GitHub and all the code?
Sure, that's a very good question. So we do not extract any data from your current organization. So still we will extract metadata, so that's one. Second, the platform is still SOC 2 compliant, GDPR, and now in EU there is also a EU AA, so we also be compliant with that. And then third, the GPT model. So if you're worried about what models are being used, you can also bring your own model. So it could be an LLM model, Open Llama model, if you're comfortable with it. If you're okay with certain specific vendor enterprise models that you can do, or in-house models, you can also point to any model. So it's a platform that could be configured to use any of those models of sort. Good question. And then the data that we will be also seeing is specified by the role, which means that only the permissioned user can see what they are relevant of. So if it's a domain that they don't have access, or if it's a sensitive data that they should not be able to see, then they can do that too. So, any other questions? Cool. Thank you so much.